new to me, construction in the house, so I had to kind of move around a little bit.
What's the coolest thing in your son's room?
Um, it's probably his shoes. He's got a box of shoes stacked. Um, so all his favorite shoes are in his room. So they're sneakerheads.
So I'm going to guess he's got a lot of Air Jordans in there.
Yeah, he definitely does. But the problem, Dan, is he's 14. Like he's got so many shoes he can't wear. So I find myself always trying to figure out a friend or a family member to give them away, and they're really nice sneakers. So first world problem, I guess.
Did you ever get a pair of shoes from Jordan himself?
From the company, yes, but not. Well, actually, let me refrain. Like I've been to his house in Jupiter, and when you walk to his house, you go into when you're coming in. There's a transition area where the garage is, and he's got a closet with all these golf shoes in there. And Jordan wears a size 13, so I had to squeeze in some of them because I had to have some of those golf shoes.
Now, did you say, "Can I have a pair of your golf shoes, Mike"?
I did, without any embarrassment, because they were shoes that nobody else had or ever seen before. This was, now you can go online and you can find a lot of Jordan golf sneakers. But if you go back about 6-7 years, he's making all these shoes that that are basketball shoes, running shoes that have golf soles on them. So nobody had ever seen them before. So I was like, I got to have these shoes. And so I stuck my foot in there, no sock, squeezing in the 13.
Okay. If you go into Jordan's house, do you know that the greatest basketball player of all time lives there?
Yes. And
how can you tell?
Well, I mean, there's segments of the house that I should say that you can tell, but for the most part, when you walk in, you don't know.
Okay.
So when you're in certain parts of it, but for the most part, it's pretty nondescript. It's pretty grandiose, which he's got so many rooms, which is fascinating. Just kind of walk through it.
Okay, what's the coolest thing you saw in Jordan's house?
Just the way he lives kind of outside in the back. So he could put the screen down so he can protect it from the mosquitoes. So he's sitting outside always, watching games, watching TV. And
smoking his cigar.
Yep. The humidor sitting right there. So it's such a cool space. And, I want to try to create that in my home where in Florida, you got to live that way. You got to have a space outdoors where you can watch TV on Sundays and obviously in the evening times.
I remember talking to you about this if you did a sequel with Spike Lee on He Got Game. And I thought that you and Spike were talking about the possibility of maybe kind of revisiting this with Zion Williamson. Is there any traction on that?
Well, we have talked with several younger players, including women, because there's definitely a dynamic there. If you think about since 1998, when the movie He Got Game came out, there's been so many storylines, in the last, under, 23, 24 years. And so there's so many different ways that we could take this. But I think the one caveat for us, Spike and I, we talk about every time, is making sure, trying to figure out a way to get Denzel involved. Because I think until Equalizer 2, he was against doing sequels. So then Equalizer 2 came out, so we're like, oh, we have a chance. So I think that's the main thing, is to get him excited, get him on board, so we could, because it's just not the same if he wasn't or didn't have something to do with the movie, with the part 2.
I like the girl aspect of this. I mean, with WNBA, name, image, likeness, like it just feels like there's a lot of different things you could explore in something like that now. And then having a woman or, a female as the lead would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and if you think about sport, still the story of sport can still be told through a female perspective. There's been so many great stories with Renee Montgomery in Atlanta, and now have ownership in the team, and everything that's going on with the Black Lives Movement. there's just so much, and being able to kind of point a limelight at the women's game, it certainly could help grow that sport just the same.
Your son Walker has type 1 diabetes. What was the news like when you found that out?
Well, it was 2008 in the NBA Finals. We were playing against the Lakers, and it was devastating because I was getting ready for Game 5, and that whole week he had been kind of in and out. We thought maybe he had the flu, and I told Shannon, my wife, before the game that the day before, I said just take him to the hospital in the morning and just get him checked. So that morning she took him to the doctor in the hospital. We were staying over in Beverly Hills, and the team was separate from the families. And so she took him. The guy said, take him to the hospital and make sure you get his blood checked. Don't leave without getting his blood checked. And without that, Walker wouldn't be with us today, because the blood can rule out a lot of scary things. And, diabetes masks itself as the flu. And so when you're thinking about, common symptoms of diabetes are bedwetting, lethargy, vomiting, weight loss, weight gain, headaches. It masks itself as the flu. And when you have a child that's going through those symptoms, a lot of people will tell you, what's going around, and the misdiagnosis can result in a lot of people not waking up with their children the next day. So it's important that we talked about this. It's important that, even now while I'm here today, is to talk about our great partnership with Abbott, because Abbott has come out with the Freestyle Libre 2, which has allowed us to be able to monitor, Walker's diabetes so much easier. You think about the technology now that's existed over the last 20 years, and you go on and on with people with diabetes, and now we're able to track and monitor his blood sugar numbers through an app now. So for anybody that wants to know anything about Freestyle Libre 2, you can go on to freestylelibre2.us, and you can get the app for free from the App Store. But it's certainly helped us. Like right now, as I sit here, I can go on my phone and I can find out what Walker's numbers are currently. So it gives me a peace of mind, gives my wife peace of mind, and it enables us to kind of help him grow a little bit better and stronger.
You think he would have died if this was misdiagnosed?
Yeah, I would not be sitting in his room right now. Just think about, we wouldn't have known anything. We would have just mistook it as a flu, and we just said, go sleep, pound some fluids, and his blood sugar would have been going through the roof. So I just implore every parent, when you go to the hospital, like, you have to, we trust in doctors, but we, at the same time, we have to just obviously follow the science and make sure that we be advocates and fight for our children, and make sure that they test for everything, especially when you're trying to figure out what is wrong with your child.
It's spelled Libre, Libre, Freestyle Libre 2. We're talking to Ray Allen, the Hall of Famer. Last time I had you on, you were in studio, and I tried to correct your shot. And I felt bad about it. I'm not going to apologize, though, Ray, but I
You're not the first.
I really?
Yeah, no. Over the course of my career, you get new coaches to come in, and they're like, well, why don't you try this? And I'm like, well, I made the All-Star team a couple of times. It's been working for me thus far, so I'm just going to ride this thing out.
I just remember, because I was always taught that you had the ball on your fingertips. You had the ball in the palm of your hand.
No, I never had the ball in the palm of my hand. Remember, I got big hands, so because this is what I stress to my guys all day long. Like, there's supposed to be space in here. It's got to be in your fingertips.
Man, you don't want me to go to the videotape, Ray, because
you got to go to the videotape.
I was right there. I was right there. I was, a foot away from your right hand. I said, Ray, it's on your palm of your hand.
No, I've never put that.
Okay.
I can't shoot with the ball in the palm of my hand.
I know. That's what I tell, all the other great shooters that I come in contact with. But
yeah.
Could you help Ben Simmons? How would you help Ben Simmons?
Well, I definitely could help him. One, people think about shooting as some talent that some of the best that's ever done it has. but it's just really just getting in there. And, in your mind, you have to think about the game. You have to think about, visualizing, what it is that you want to do, what you foresee in your free throws. So you have to have a mindset to think about these things and then kind of absorb it and then do it. And so, having the right conversations first and foremost is important for him and anybody that struggles with shooting. And then it's like we have the saying, like if you have a full cup, when you walk into a crowd, somebody tries to pour something in your cup, you can't receive anything more because you're already filled. So he's got to come to the table with an empty cup and be willing to take all this information, for whatever he's thought about shooting, kind of strip away and break all it down and kind of rebuild back up. Because, one thing, it's, how you hold the ball in your hands. It's got to be in your fingertips so you don't have a push shot. And you have to shoot shots that you're going to be tested on in a game. If you think about a fourth quarter scenario with somebody running out at you, how is that lift on your jump shot going to look? What is that release going to look like? And that's what you have to practice when you're in the gym by yourself. Because, far too often when I walk in the gym, I see kids just up there just shooting with their upper body. And then it doesn't stand when you come into a game situation, because now you have to measure a different release point. And so, with Ben, a lot of people are running out at him and they're testing him to make that shot. So that is where I would put him in a gym environment, a work situation, and have him shoot under duress.
But how's his form, though, Ray? Would you mess with his form?
I don't think there's anything wrong with his form. And what you have to remember, one of the greatest shooters I've ever seen in Reggie Miller, he doesn't have form that was taught, by any means. When I first got into the league, I thought to myself, I was like, well, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to know what it is that you're working with. So with Ben, it's not a form thing. It's about explaining to him what it is that he's doing when he's missing and where he wants his energy to come from. Like, he's got to flow through it. He's a big guy. Like, when he shoots and he extends, like, shooting comes from your feet all the way through your body. And then as you release the ball at your fingertips, it's not just the heave here. It's all one motion. So that's why for some of the best shooters in the world and those that make it look so easy, that's why it just looks like a flick, because you're using the motion from your toes all the way through your fingertips.
Can you step back just a little bit on camera and show the audience what you mean when you're saying, because a lot of people, you just practice the jumper up here, up top, and what you're saying, like Trae Young and Steph Curry aren't big guys, but they utilize their legs so well. So can you stand up and just show us what like where you're, if you're watching on radio or listening on radio, we apologize. So, all right. So show me what you mean.
So, when you look at Steph and Trae, they do have more of a push shot. So when you come down, even my shot, I come from here and then I go up and my motion pushes me and pulls me and I shoot the ball and release. So it's just a flick. So when you see guys coming in transition, as they run and then they stop, you see a lot of people kill their energy or the motion and they just push right here. Mm-hmm. So what I want to get guys to understand is when they run and then they take off, don't let that energy, that inertia die at your feet, at your lower body, and where they just start pushing with their upper body. And so it's important.
And I'm also wondering about this, Ray. It feels like you're seeing shooters maybe down a little bit lower, whereas we were taught to be a little bit higher with the release point. These longer shots, it feels like these guys, they're starting down at their chest. Like, are you teaching that to your kids?
Well, one of the things that's fascinating, even with my son Walker, this is where his shot is and his release is so low, because you have to remember, for them, the ball is bigger. So they have to use more muscle and more of their body to get the ball up, and they're not in their wrists with the shot. So it's super important to kind of gauge. That's why everybody, I put videos of my sons up when I'm working them out over the summer. And, the younger ones, I don't mess with their jump shot, because they'll get on the trampoline, because they have a hoop on their trampoline with a small ball, and they'll shoot it just like this in perfect form, rotation, everything. But when they get the big ball, they have to push it from here because they don't have the strength. And then what happens is, as the kid gets older, this is where their release is, because they haven't evolved and, reconstructed where their jump shot is, just where they're comfortable. So that's what I think happens with a lot of kids in their jump shooting is that they shoot one way when they're younger to get the ball up and they heave it, and they never change or get to their somewhat teenage years to their adult body where they're shooting the shot that is conducive to them being now strong enough. So I tell all the kids I'm in the gym with, I said, listen, you're not in middle school anymore. You have the strength in your wrists. And what I do is I'll put them on their knees on the court, and I'll have them first. We'll walk in the gym with the ball in your fingertips underneath the basket, and I let them see that this is all you need. And then I'll let them get on their knees on the floor and then shoot from there, and then just let them work on that right there. Because this is all you need right here. If you're using your body, it's not a heave.
Yeah.
You see a lot of people using their shoulders and their lower body to try to get the ball up there, and that's where form goes bad. And then if you take that bad form, that's why a lot of people end up not being able to shoot.
Hey, the Lakers are taking these old guys. Do you think you could give LeBron, 10 minutes a game?
Yeah, I can give him 20 minutes a game. The problem is that next day I'm going to be struggling a little bit. It's the recovery that gets you more than anything.
That's all right. No back-to-backs for you, Ray.
Yeah, no back-to-back. It's great now because I don't know if you know this, but I started coaching. I'm the head coach now at Gulliver Prep down here in Miami. And so now I get to work with these kids every single day and, get them to see and understand, their best potential because, physically I'll get on the court with them and run up and down and try and get them to, be better than they were yesterday. And, if they go to college or not, if they end up going to the pros or not, whatever it may be, it's got to be, high school sports has to be a great experience for our kids. When you're thinking about the drafts and international players around the world that get drafted, and we got to make sure that we make these experiences for kids in high school a special experience, and not ruined by parents or administrations, but just special for them. That when they go there, they feel like, man, I had a great time playing on that team.
When's the last time you went into a room and you weren't the best shooter in the room?
Well, it's always arguable. It's been a while, but listen. I played in a golf tournament last week with Steph and Dale Curry.
Yeah.
So, depending on who you're asking, Dale was one of my favorite shooters. All time favorites and greats. So it is. We had this conversation all the time with buddies of mine, and we always talk about the greatest. And we were actually having this conversation about comedians last night, and they were trying to say who the best comedian of all time was. And somebody said, do you like Richard Pryor or Eddie Murphy? And I said, we don't get Eddie Murphy without Richard Pryor. And so it's important that we understand that a lot of who we try to compare, like the next generation that comes along, we don't get without that previous player, and that is something, all of us have Jordan DNA in us. We have Dr. J and Magic DNA in us. So to try to say we're better or comparable to any one of them is like blasphemy.
Well, you don't have Trae Young without Steph Curry, but you don't have Steph Curry without you.
Yeah, and it's a cycle. But it's almost like we're just so focused on trying to say who's better, but it's just everybody has their own preferences. And that, to me, is what's special and great about sports.
The partnership is with Abbott and the maker of Freestyle Libre 2. Ray, it's great to talk to you. Hope Walker does well, and good luck coaching high school.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Good seeing you. Take care of that state up there for me. I know it's getting cold.
You don't miss it at all.
No.
No, you don't. All right. Thank you, Ray. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Phone calls after this.